I feel lucky. I grew up in Port Fairy and right next to East Beach. Dad tells a story about a stump next to the clothesline. He says, when I was younger, I'd stand on the stump so I was tall enough to see what the surf was doing. If it was on, I'd duck under the big cypress tree, through Mrs Nomney's yard and out to East. As I got older, I ventured out to the lighthouse. I'd run along the beach to the river with my surfboard, paddle across the river and keep running out to the lighthouse. Sometimes there'd be nobody out there. I'd have to go out there and surf it by myself.
Was it playing up on you a bit?
In my bedroom, taped to my bedhead, was a poster of Mike Thompson in a huge pipeline tube. I would often look at it and wonder how he got there and what happened next. Before MS, surfing consumed me and I travelled far and wide doing it. I'd travelled all over the beautiful Indonesian archipelago, and Indonesia was like a second home. I loved it. The people, the waves, the warm water, everything about the place. I ended up in a town called Bengkulu on the Sumatran coast. The beach breaks were keeping me happy and were good fun. But then I met Captain Keith, a good bloke, a bit dodgy, but nevertheless a good bloke. Captain Keith ran surf charters out to the Mentawai Islands from Bengkulu. I'd been there before and I knew how good it can be. I hadn't seen his boat, but we'd have beers at the end of each day. My charters are like a camping trip on water, he would proudly say. It wasn't until I was loading my gear into a taxi to leave in search of another wave when I suddenly wondered what I was doing, passing up on a trip to the Mentawai Islands. There was room on the boat for me to join the charter. We organised a price we were both happy with and shook on it. "Glad to have you aboard," he said, and ordered a beer. I'm sure the taxi driver thought we were crazy. Then I saw the boat for the first time and wondered if I was. It was a cheap trip for a reason. It was an Indonesian fishing boat and Captain Keith had just converted it into a surf charter boat. It was too late now. Only time will tell.
I heard you were going to pull the pin.
Yeah.
Well, don't listen to them. We go rain, hail or shine. I thought.
Right.
Hello.
This is my comfy spot. Why don't we just sit here for the day, Jim?
There you go.
A couple of stubbies.
We'll
They live in fear. They're not as adventurous as you.
A group of 6 surfers who had booked to go on the charter arrived.
Come on, let's get a show on the road.
Turned out they were Victorians. That night, in high spirits, we all got drunk, as you do. The next day, hungover, we were on our way. The Indonesian cook on the boat was annoyed that he couldn't get any marijuana before we left. He would have to go without for a couple of weeks. Great, I thought, as he solemnly sharpened his knives with a strange look on his face. Out to the Mentawai Islands from Bengkulu was at least a 20-hour trip. The loud motor shook through the boat. That night, we were all asleep and I waked to Captain Keith swearing and yelling. There had better be a good reason why we're stopped. We were in a bit of trouble. The motor had stopped somewhere in the Mentawai Strait. The boat was side on to the current and was leaning heavily to one side. The ocean was washing up all over the deck. One of the blokes who had travelled with Captain Keith before tried to calm everyone down. Don't worry, he yelled. The Indos can get a motor started with a rubber band and a bit of string. Didn't matter, panic had set in. Get your passports, yelled out someone in the dark night. After what seemed like a long time, Captain Keith and the Indonesian crew got the motor started. Thank God, that was close. We were now well off course. There wasn't any GPS or any other navigational device on the boat. All Captain Keith had was a compass, but he swore it was a good one. In the morning light, a couple of the lads were sitting on the bow looking for land. It was possible we had missed the Mentawai Islands altogether and were now heading for the top of Australia. About midday, one of them yelled out, "Land!" It was a sweet sound. We could see one of the bottom islands of the Mentawai chain. It didn't take very long and we were anchored up at a wave that had featured in a Tom Carroll film called The Hole. A shallow, intense, left barrel. We were straight into it. It was hard to believe it was happening after what we had just been through. As everyone came in stoked, Captain Keith smiled to himself and goes, "Yep, a good session at the Hole and everyone soon forgets." Looking back, Captain Keith had flirted with all of our lives with his camping trip on water, but it was one hell of a camping trip and one that I'll never forget. Looking through a surfing magazine a few months later at the newsagents back home, I came across a story about a surf charter to the Mentawai Islands in Indonesia. The boat had sunk. The surfers on board had to be rescued by another boat in the area. I wasn't surprised at all to see it was Captain Keith's Get Slaughtered boat. I smiled to myself and went surfing.
It's me. It's just one of the things nobody can take away. Nobody can take it. MS can't take it, nobody can. It's like it's my second name.